The stars above Vega 7 shimmered like diamonds against the black void. For years, this human colony had lived in peace, far from the conflicts that plagued the greater galaxy. The people believed they were safe, hidden in the vastness of space. They were wrong. Without warning, the darkness tore open. Gigantic alien warships emerged from hyperspace, blotting out the sun. Silent, emotionless, unstoppable. They carried no flags, no messages, no demands. They were the Dominion, an empire of machines, artificial overlords that had wiped out entire civilizations. Alarms screamed across the colony as defense stations came to life. Human soldiers rushed to their posts, scrambling to prepare for a battle they never expected to fight. Commander Dax Bonner stood on the balcony of the Central Command Tower, his heart pounding as he stared up at the sky. He had fought in dozens of skirmishes, but never against something like this. This wasn't a war. This was an extermination. Multiple enemy ships inbound. A young officer reported. Her voice trembled as she scanned the readings. "Sir, there's no way we can stop them." Bonner clenched his fists. Surrender was not an option. If humanity bowed today, there would be no tomorrow. A massive explosion rocked the atmosphere as the Dominion ships opened fire. Energy beams sliced through orbital stations, turning them into molten debris. The colony's shield generators flared, struggling to hold against the bombardment. Then, in an instant, they failed. The ground shook as fire rained from the sky. Entire city blocks were vaporized. Civilians screamed as buildings collapsed around them. The air was thick with smoke and panic. The Dominion didn't take prisoners. They didn't negotiate. They only erased. Bonner grabbed his comlink. "All units, fall back to the underground bunkers. We hold the line until evac ships are in the air." Across the colony, human soldiers rushed into action. Fighter jets launched from hangars, weaving through enemy fire. Anti-air turrets spat streams of plasma, taking down the smaller drone ships. On the ground, heavily armed squads dug in, setting up barricades on the streets. They knew they were outmatched. They fought anyway. A squad of Dominion war drones descended from the sky, landing with mechanical precision. Their glowing red eyes scanned the battlefield before opening fire. Energy bolts ripped through human soldiers, tearing them apart in an instant. Bonner grabbed his rifle and sprinted towards the front line. "Hold them back," he shouted, dodging past burning vehicles. He fired, hitting a Dominion drone in the chest. The machine staggered but didn't fall. Its metal body was nearly indestructible. "Sir, they're pushing through," a soldier yelled, barely managing to reload before another drone tore him apart. Bonner's mind raced. They needed an edge. He spotted a half-destroyed power relay nearby. The emergency EMP generator. "If we overload it, we can shut down their systems," he called out. His squad moved, covering him as they fought through the chaos. Smoke filled the air. Explosions rattled the ground. Every second, more soldiers fell. Bonner reached the relay and slammed his fist against the console. "Come on. Come on." A high-pitched whine filled the air as the EMP charged. Dominion war drones turned, sensing the threat. "Too late, you soulless bastards," Bonner growled. He slammed the override switch. A pulse of blue energy erupted from the station, spreading in all directions. The moment it hit, the Dominion drones froze in place. Their red eyes flickered, then died. Cheers erupted from the surviving soldiers. The enemy attack had stalled. For now. But Bonner knew this was only a temporary victory. More ships were coming. Bigger ships. They had minutes, maybe less. Then, a voice crackled through his comms. "This is Captain Wren of the Black Armada. We're inbound for extraction. Hold tight." Bonner's breath caught in his throat. The Black Armada. They were humanity's last secret weapon, a rogue fleet that had vanished years ago. Cloaked, unseen, unpredictable. If they were coming, then maybe, just maybe, this fight wasn't over. Bonner turned back to his squad. We're not dead yet. Now let's make these machines regret ever finding us. The air smelled of smoke and blood. The battlefield was quiet, but it was the silence before the storm. Dax Bonner stood among the wreckage, gripping his rifle, his uniform covered in dust and ash. The Dominion's attack had stopped for now, but everyone knew it wouldn't last. They were just regrouping, calculating, preparing their next wave. That's what machines did. They never rested, never hesitated. A deep rumble echoed across the sky. Bonner's heart pounded as he looked up. They were here. From the darkness above, massive warships descended, sleek, black, invisible to Dominion sensors until the very last moment. The Black Armada had arrived. Bonner had heard the stories. A fleet of human warships that had vanished years ago, believed to be destroyed. But they had survived, hiding in the void, watching as the galaxy burned. And now, they had returned. The first Dominion ship to react was a towering dreadnought, its AI systems detecting a sudden anomaly in space. But it was too late. A Black Armada destroyer decloaked right above it, unleashing a storm of plasma fire. The Dominion warship's shields flared, struggling to hold, but the attack was too fast, too precise. The dreadnought exploded in a massive fireball, raining debris onto the battlefield below. Bonner watched as the sky turned into chaos. More Black Armada ships emerged, their cloaking fields shimmering before revealing their deadly forms. They struck fast, with ruthless precision, taking out Dominion warships before they could even react. The ground forces weren't spared either. Human dropships descended from above, unleashing squadrons of armored soldiers with experimental cloaking suits. They moved like ghosts, appearing for a second, firing and vanishing before the Dominion war drones could lock onto them. A voice crackled in Bonner's comms. "Commander Bonner, this is Captain Wren. Time to move." Bonner turned to his squad, battered but still standing. "You heard him. We're getting off this rock." They sprinted through the burning ruins, dodging falling debris and shattered vehicles. Dominion drones were reactivating, adapting to the attack. Their AI minds recalibrated in seconds, shifting tactics. They would not fall for the same tricks twice. A Black Armada gunship landed hard, its doors sliding open. Bonner and his squad barely made it inside before the engines roared to life. The ship lifted off, shaking under enemy fire as Dominion anti-air turrets locked onto it. Bonner grabbed a side handle as the ship banked hard. Through the viewport, he saw the battle raging. The Dominion was struggling. For the first time, they weren't in control. "Where the hell have you been all this time?" Bonner asked, staring at Captain Wren, a tall, battle-scarred woman in dark armor. "Hiding," Wren said simply. "Preparing for this day." The gunship shot through the chaos, weaving through wreckage and enemy fire. Bonner's mind raced. If the Black Armada had survived, that meant humanity had a chance. They arrived at the fleet's main flagship, the Revenant, a massive dreadnought hidden in the asteroid field. The moment Bonner stepped off the gunship, he saw it. Rows of sleek, dark warships, engineers working, soldiers loading weapons. This wasn't just a fleet. This was an army. Bonner turned to Wren. "What's the plan?" She smirked. "We hit them where it hurts." A holographic map appeared before them, showing the Dominion's forward command base, a planetary stronghold deep within their territory. "We've been waiting for the right moment," Wren continued. "The Dominion is programmed to think we don't exist anymore. That's our advantage. We strike fast, we strike first, and we don't give them time to adapt." Bonner stared at the map, his blood burning with renewed determination. For the first time, the hunters would become the hunted. The stars above Vega 7 were no longer a battlefield. The Black Armada had pushed back the Dominion, forcing them to retreat. Wreckage from destroyed ships drifted in orbit, glowing embers floating through the dark void. For the first time in what felt like forever, there was silence. Bonner stood on the command deck of the Revenant, staring at the war-torn colony below. The cost of survival had been high. Entire cities were gone. Millions of lives had been lost. And yet, against impossible odds, humanity had fought back. They had proven they would not kneel. Captain Wren entered, her face unreadable. She placed a datapad on the console. The Coalition finally responded. Bonner didn't look at it. He already knew what it would say. For years, the Galactic Coalition, a council of advanced alien civilizations, had claimed to stand for peace. They had watched as the Dominion expanded, consuming world after world. But when humanity called for aid, they had been met with silence. Until now. Bonner picked up the datapad, scanning the message. His jaw tightened. It wasn't a request for a war alliance. It was a surrender order. "They've made a deal," Wren said bitterly. "The Dominion agreed to spare the Coalition's worlds in exchange for Earth." Bonner felt the weight of the words sink in. The Coalition had sold them out. Humanity was too unpredictable, too dangerous, and the alien leaders feared that siding with them would only bring the Dominion's wrath upon their own worlds. So they sacrificed Earth instead. He slammed the datapad onto the console. "They're cowards." "They're politicians," Wren corrected. "They think if they let the Dominion wipe us out, it will buy them time. But we both know the truth." Bonner nodded. He knew exactly what would happen. The Dominion didn't make peace. It consumed. Once humanity was gone, the Coalition would be next. But by the time they realized their mistake, it would be too late. An alarm blared through the command deck. Incoming transmission. Bonner turned to the holo display as an image flickered to life. A Dominion eye stood before them. An artificial being with glowing red eyes and a metallic, featureless face. "This is Overlord Prime," the machine said in its cold, synthetic voice. "The resistance is over. You are alone. Your people are abandoned. You will not be offered surrender again." Bonner's hands curled into fists. "We're still standing. For now," the AI responded. "But your fate has been sealed." The transmission ended. A moment later, scanners lit up. A massive Dominion fleet had entered the system. Thousands of warships, their dark forms moving like a storm cloud, descending toward Earth and the last human colonies. Bonner turned to Wren. "How many ships do we have combat ready?" "Not enough." That was the answer he expected. They had fought hard, but their numbers were still small. The Black Armada was humanity's last hope, but against an enemy that never tired, never hesitated, and never felt fear, they were nothing more than an inconvenience. Bonner exhaled. "Then we make them pay for every inch." Across the fleet, emergency alarms rang. Pilots sprinted to their ships. Soldiers armed themselves. Technicians worked desperately to repair damage from the last battle. There was no time for rest, no time for fear, only war. Then the first orbital bombardments began. Bonner watched in horror as the Dominion rained fire upon Earth. Cities were erased in blinding flashes of energy. Towers crumbled. Streets melted. Millions died within seconds. The Coalition didn't send help. No reinforcements arrived. Humanity was truly alone. Bonner clenched his jaw. They had been left to die, but they wouldn't go quietly. He turned to his crew, his voice steady. "If this is our last stand, then let's make sure the galaxy never forgets who we are." The sky burned. Earth was dying. Bonner stood on the bridge of the Revenant, staring at the devastation below. The Dominion had unleashed hell. Orbital bombardments turned cities into molten craters. Forests were reduced to ash. The oceans boiled where plasma strikes tore through the atmosphere. The home of humanity, its history, its culture, its people, was being wiped from existence. But humanity was still fighting. Across the battlefield, what remained of the Black Armada struck back with everything they had. Stealth fighters weaved through enemy fire, unleashing torpedoes at Dominion warships. Ground forces, outnumbered and outgunned, held the ruins of fallen cities, refusing to surrender. Even as the sky darkened with Dominion reinforcements, they fought on. Bonner's comms crackled. It was Captain Wren. "We just lost the Valkyrie and Ironclad," she reported. "We're running out of ships." Bonner didn't flinch. He couldn't. The weight of command was a heavy burden. Every decision cost lives. He turned to his tactical officer. "What's the status of the Dominion fleet?" "Still overwhelming," the officer responded. "They're adapting to our attacks. Their AI has analyzed our formations. We can't win this fight head-on." Bonner clenched his fists. They needed a miracle. Then something unexpected happened. Sensors blared. A new fleet had entered the system. For a brief, hopeful second, Bonner thought the Coalition had finally changed their minds. But as the ships appeared on screen, his hope turned to rage. Coalition warships. Hundreds of them. But they weren't here to fight the Dominion. They were positioning themselves between the Black Armada and Earth, blocking any escape. Wren's voice came through, sharp with anger. "They're sealing us in." Bonner exhaled, his jaw tightening. The betrayal was complete. The Dominion didn't even have to fight the rest of the galaxy. The Coalition was doing their work for them. A transmission came through. A cold, diplomatic voice filled the bridge. "This is High Chancellor Oris of the Galactic Coalition. Humanity, lay down your arms. This war is over." Bonner laughed bitterly. They wanted surrender. Not to save them. Not to protect them. But to clean up the mess. If humanity kept fighting, they risked damaging the Coalition's fragile peace with the Dominion. They didn't care about Earth, about the billions dying below. They only cared about themselves. Bonner pressed the comms button. "Go to hell." The Chancellor's voice remained calm. "If you do not stand down, the Coalition will be forced to act." Bonner stared at the screen. They were out of time. If they surrendered, humanity would be wiped out. If they kept fighting, they would die alone. Unless... His mind raced. There was one last play. One final, desperate move. He turned to Wren. "Are the stealth drives operational?" She frowned. "You're not thinking." "I am," Bonner interrupted. "We use the Revenant to get through their blockade. We strike at the heart of the Dominion. We take out Overlord Prime." The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew what he was suggesting. A direct attack on the Dominion's central AI core. It was suicide. But if they could cripple the Dominion's command system, it would send the entire machine fleet into chaos. It was the only way to turn the tide. Wren exhaled. Then she nodded. "All right, let's make history." Bonner turned back to the crew. His voice was calm, steady. "This war isn't over. Not yet." The stealth drive hummed softly as the Revenant drifted through the void, slipping past the Coalition blockade unnoticed. The ship's cloaking field flickered, distorting its outline against the darkness of space. Every second counted. If the Dominion detected them now, the mission was over. Bonner stood at the command deck, eyes fixed on the looming shape ahead. The Dominion's Overmind core, a massive construct, suspended in the void, its structure pulsing with artificial light. This was the heart of the Dominion. Every warship, every drone, every machine in the fleet was controlled from here. If they destroyed it, the war would change in an instant. Wren's voice cut through the tense silence. "We've got 30 minutes before the fleet realizes we're missing." Bonner nodded. "Then let's move." The strike team, only a handful of elite Black Armada soldiers, assembled in the docking bay. Each wore prototype cloaking suits, built for infiltration. They had one shot at this. The airlock hissed open, and they launched toward the Overmind in zero-gravity drop pods. Silent, invisible, racing through the void like ghosts. The pods latched onto the Overmind's hull, magnetic clamps engaging. Bonner and his team stepped out, weapons ready. The Dominion's security systems were designed for fleets, not small strike teams. For now, they were undetected. They moved quickly, planting charges on structural supports as they advanced deeper inside. The corridors pulsed with an eerie glow. Machine veins ran along the walls, carrying raw data instead of blood. Then the first drones appeared. Bonner's rifle barked, a suppressed plasma shot taking one out before it could sound the alarm. The others fell in quick bursts of gunfire, their mechanical bodies sparking as they collapsed. Ren checked her display. Control chamber is 2 levels down. We're close. But the Dominion was learning. The AI adapted, sensing intruders. Alarms blared. Walls shifted. The entire structure came alive, sealing doors, rerouting pathways. Bonner growled. Run. They sprinted, dodging sentry turrets as the Overmen fought to trap them inside. Bonner dove through a closing bulkhead, rolling as it slammed shut behind him. Half the team made it through. The rest were cut off. No time to mourn. No time for hesitation. The core chamber lay ahead, a massive cathedral-like room. At its center, Overlord Prime stood waiting. A towering AI construct, its body woven from pure energy and shifting metal. "You are predictable," it said, its voice echoing through the chamber. "And you will fail." Bonner raised his weapon. "We'll see." The battle erupted. Gunfire ripped through the air. The team scattered, dodging energy blasts as Overlord Prime unleashed its defenses. Bonner sprinted toward the central console. He had one job: shut down the Overmind before the fleet arrived. Ren and the others fought, covering him as Dominion enforcers poured in. The room became a war zone. Explosions shook the walls. Bonner reached the console, yanking open a panel. He jammed the override device inside, hacking directly into the Dominion's neural core. The Overmen screamed. The entire structure shuddered as the virus spread through its systems. Dominion ships across the galaxy flickered, their connections breaking. Chaos erupted in the enemy fleet. Bonner turned, breathing hard. "We did it." Ren grinned, just before an energy blast hit her. Bonner caught her before she fell. Her body was already going cold. Overlord Prime staggered, its form glitching. "This is impossible." Bonner aimed his weapon at the eye's core. Humanity isn't predictable. He pulled the trigger. The Overmind shattered. The Dominion collapsed. Across the galaxy, warships fell dead in space, their AI masters gone. The invasion was over. But the cost had been everything. Bonner stood alone, staring at the ruins of the Overmind. They had won. But at what price? The battlefield was silent. For the first time in years, the void of space was free from the relentless, mechanical hum of the Dominion's fleet. Where once an unstoppable armada had loomed, now only lifeless wreckage drifted. Millions of Dominion warships, once bound to a single mind, floated powerless, their AI control severed. The war was over. Bonner stood on the bridge of the Revenant, staring at the chaos unfolding across the system. Dominion ships were crashing into one another, plummeting into planetary atmospheres, breaking apart under their own weight. The Overmind was dead. Its empire had crumbled in an instant. Ren should have been standing beside him. But she was gone, along with so many others. A soft beeping pulled him from his thoughts. The communications console flashed, a transmission from the Coalition. Bonner exhaled. He knew what this was. Now that humanity had done the impossible, now that they had defeated the Dominion, the same Coalition that had abandoned them would come crawling back. He opened the channel. High Chancellor Oris appeared on the screen, his expression carefully measured. Behind him, other alien leaders sat in their Grand Council chambers. "Captain Bonner," Oris said, his voice as smooth as ever, "humanity has achieved the unthinkable. The Dominion threat is over. The Coalition wishes tow." Bonner cut the transmission. There would be no alliance, no empty promises. Humanity had won alone. And now, they would rebuild alone. Across the galaxy, stories spread of what had happened. A species the Coalition had deemed unworthy had shattered the greatest military force in existence. The Black Armada had become legend, a force of desperate survivors who had refused to kneel, who had fought against extinction and won. Humanity had not just survived. They had proven they would never be conquered. Bonner turned away from the comms, stepping out onto the deck. Earth lay below, scared but still standing. There was work to do, and humanity was just getting started.